Welcome, a warm welcome at that to What a Shout, the Racing Post new weekly segment, bringing you all the hot topics and all the big calls on the races ahead every weekend. And of course, it's the most wonderful time of the year. It's the festive, so we're going to be looking at Welsh National and all sorts of things, hot topics for you coming up, questions from the audience out there. We want to know what you're thinking. We've got Nick Scholfield here. I'm delighted to tell you, Grade 1 Cheltenham Festival winning rider, ace tips to Paul Kealy, dressed smart as ever. Can we get everything into 2-minute segments, though, Paul? That's the question.
We'll do our best, mate. Yeah, it's quicker the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Because that's what we're going to do on this show, fast-paced. Everything's going to be within 2 minutes. Nick, you happy with that?
Sharp.
Happy days. I won't need to interrupt you too much. Well, let's get on to the hot topic then. The first hot topic, non-standard race times. I'm not totally sure about this. It happens in France, of course, Australia and America. Your 353s from Charlestown or wherever it is. What about a 252 from Newbury, Paul?
Yeah, well, I mean, in Britain, 252 at Newbury will go off at 255. The 458 at Sandown will go off at 508. Problem is, did we have unofficial race times as far as we're concerned? Because there is not a racecourse in Britain or Ireland that is remotely interested about getting races off on time. We see it all the time.
It's all about congestion charging.
Nick knows that. Nick knows that down at the start.
You are dealing with animals and they're not always predictable, so in fairness to the racecourse, sometimes if something goes wrong...
There's no rush, though. There's no sense of urgency, is there, really?
No, well, I agree with you, because when you're sat at the start freezing cold, I'd be quite happy.
You're just waiting to jump off, let's go, and some bloke's saying to you, hang on a minute, the 4 mile at Exeter is still 10 minutes off.
Yeah, well, you're waiting for Leopardstown or Naas, so,
Or however it goes. So to you guys, not so much of a big difference, not a problem. The people in the betting shop might see that slightly differently. I mean, what about, for example, if you're on your phone, you're thinking, hang on a minute, I've got the 3 o'clock at Leopardstown on Boxing Day, St Stephen's Day, it's off. What are we going to do about that? You think that we'll get used to the 154s?
Well, yeah, of course we will. We see what the time says on the phone, and that's it. No problem.
So not a bother then. The hot topic, as far as we can see it. Okay, let's move on. Nick Scholfield question, one that's come in for you. Nick, what's it actually like being a jockey over the festive period? Christmas dinner, we should start with that, shouldn't we? Are you basically, is Christmas dinner just, I just want to get to Boxing Day, let's get out there? So it is literally the most profitable time of the year for you.
Yeah, it's a very busy time before Christmas and after Christmas. Boxing Day is probably, if not the biggest day of the year. Racing-wise, there's 6 meetings. Every jockey would have plenty of rides, and it's a busy time, and you sort of don't know your fate until day before Christmas Eve, because the weights according, and if you're a heavy jockey and you might have below your minimum, that it sort of ruins your Christmas slightly. But at the same time, if you have good rides on Boxing Day, that can be its Christmas in itself.
So while us pigs in blankets are tucking in, you're thinking, do I have an extra Brussels sprout or not? Will you ride out on Christmas morning?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. So we keep busy and obviously have Christmas dinner, but I think come 4 o'clock we'll be studying the form for the next day.
What about you, Kills?
Yeah, just studying the form for the next day. Christmas Day, yeah.
3 o'clock thinking.
Get up, study form. Actually, apart from having a Christmas dinner, it's for me it's quite a dull day nowadays. Kids are growing up, But this year my missus is working, so I'm free to just study. I'm free to just study all day long.
So no excuses whatsoever.
I'm not going to say that's a bonus, just in case she watches it. But
so you'll be on Sedgefield at 3:52.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, let's take a question from the floor out there then, and thanks to Aidan O'Malley for getting in touch. Thistlecrack. This is the one that we're going to have. He says, I'm really tempted to back Thistlecrack in the King George. Following his impressive display against Paisley Park, it was that, over hurdles of course, in the long distance at Newbury at the Ladbroke meeting there a couple of weeks back. So how does the panel feel about horses who switch between hurdles, fences and sometimes the flat too? We've got Not So Sleepy, for example, tomorrow, who runs in the big handicap the last race at Ascot. Everyone knows about him on the flat. Went to hurdles last time and won quite easily, didn't he? So,
yeah, I mean, look, why not? If a horse can handle and jump proficiently both types of obstacles, then why not? I mean, Thistlecrack was obviously a brilliant hurdler, but he was also a pretty good chaser, and why shouldn't he run in the King George? He's already won it once. He finished second last year. My big worry about him is this is probably going to be the deepest ground King George has been for a while. It's been hammering down all week. I don't live a million miles away. There's not, pretty much barely raceable anywhere near where I live at the moment. So it's going to be really sticky, tacky ground. And I think a horse like Thistlecrack, he does what he's always done is put in a lot of effort into his jumping. And I think jumping out of heavy ground, that isn't going to help him. And that's not to mention the fact that you've got probably the 2 best chasers in Britain in Lost in Translation and Surname to race against as well, let alone last year's winner, Clanders Oboe. So.
Kempton usually attract the dries out more than most. From a punting perspective, it's certainly usually kind ground. Nick, when you're riding one of these, adaptable horses, should we say. Say it's just hosed up over hurdles, much lower chase rating. It turns out a week later trying to, stay ahead of the game. How do you approach it from a jockey's perspective? Are you thinking very much about some don't take to him at all, do they?
But I think the thing with Thistlecrack, he's a previous chase winner and he's got a lot of experience under his belt. And
you'd be more confident then? Yeah,
I wouldn't go a problem. He jumped very well, previously. So just as you touched on there earlier, when he, the heavy ground and puts a lot of effort into his jumping, he got beat by many clouds at Cheltenham when the ground was quite heavy, and he does put in a lot of effort. So that's probably a slight negative for him, as you touched on.
Good shout. That's interesting then. So basically, no worries with Thistlecrack whatsoever.
Well, you definitely run him. Can't really see him winning. That's the only thing.
Okay, fair enough. Okay then, let's go in for the big race one, and it's going to be the 3:35 at Ascot, the big betting race of the weekend really, the Betfair Exchange Trophy, known in the previous years as the Ladbroke, etc, etc, at 2 miles, fast and furious, really bad ground but a wide open market as usual. Vying for favouritism, David Pipe's Umbrigado, and perhaps he's the horse that we should start with, Nick, because you've won on him, and because probably got a bit more to offer, has he?
Yeah, he's only a 5-year-old. He's by Stowaway. He's a lovely horse. Still only rated 142. He was tried in graded company last year after winning his two novice hurdles well. He's got form on soft, although a lot of his runs are on better ground. But I think because it's a 2-mile trip, that will help his stamina. And I think he's still reasonably well handicapped for a race like this. And you probably want a horse that stays a bit further with the ground conditions like they are.
You definitely think that, Kills.
Well, yeah, I was saying, when I looked at the going stick readings, I've never seen lower at Ascot, So it's going to be really, really tacky stuff. It's still going to be raining tomorrow, so we will have to see. I think Umbrigado will definitely stay. He's an interesting horse. Obviously, he was tried at 3 mile last time at Haydock, and he didn't stay, but he travelled really, really well. He's a definite player in the race. I'm half interested in Monsieur Lecoq. If you want a little bit surprised he's coming out after running in the International. Now the International, a bit like the Greatwood, was run at a slow pace, and he didn't want it. And I spoke to Lizzie Kealy after the Greatwood. She said that if she could have done a million things different, she would have done. She thinks she should have won on him. But part of the problem was that they went no pace, and he's a horse that needs pace, and it showed that because he was really running on strongly at the death in the International, having got badly out of pace. Now we've got Not So Sleepy, who can be a tearaway and was a tearaway when he won. He might still be able to stay in front, Not So Sleepy, but at least he's going to guarantee a generous pace. So I think he's interesting.
The ground with him would be interesting. I mean, he's got like £5, and you're Not So Sleepy. He won what you might think, was an ideal prep for this.
Yeah.
I think I analysed that race in the paper. We're talking about a horse that can finish 4th in a Says.
Yeah, exactly.
127.
Yeah, it's £5 irrelevant compared to his ability on the flat, isn't it? So I mean, he's got a big chance, but he needs to settle better than he did last time. So
if you're chasing the hare, Nick, at Ascot, and he's gone 10 clear, what are you thinking if you're in that chasing pack?
You get some idea how the conditions are riding. Ascot can suit front runners, and if they can get away, but it'll be very grim come the last race at Ascot tomorrow. There won't be much fresh ground lying about, and I think jockeys, it'll be sort of watch the racing on the Friday and the beginning of the race on Saturday to get an idea how it's looking.
That's the big handicap then. Let's move on. As promised, the long walk hurdle. I think we're going to be a bit quicker on this one, lads. Paisley Park bidding to become the second winner in succession. Now, this long walk hurdle is known for its multiple, wasn't it? Rev de Civola, big bucks, of course. Are we looking at just a 1 to 4 buying money shot, Paul, or is there something in there that might trouble it?
Should be. If you wanted to question anything, Emma Lavell's always said he didn't really like soft ground. Now, he did win a cleave on soft ground. Obviously, it won't be as deep as it was then, but then when you actually look at the form, I think he's at least £15 better than those in the race. We've got Lammy Serge, probably the most talented of the rivals. Quirky as hell and been off a long while. Interesting, but I mean, look, he's the dominant stayer around at the moment. How does he get beat unless the ground beats him?
World's End might have a bit more to offer.
I don't think he wants ground that deep.
Grimacing over there.
No. I don't think he wants ground that deep. You?
No, look, Paisley Park, the ground's a negative for him, but he's that much well in this race, I think.
So 1 for the forecast potentially. Lammy Serge, that would be my shout anyway. He's coming back off a whopping absence this chap. He's second in the race before. Sam Spinner, of course, when he won it, he chased him up. He's quirky, isn't he, Paul?
He is quirky. I mean,
that's being polite.
He's quirky. He's done some, he's run some really good races over fences as well. Remember,
yeah.
You know what I mean? He's got a lot of talent, and he has won some fair races in his life. So you can't knock him too much. I'm pretty sure Darryl Jacob doesn't mind picking up the prize money whenever he finishes second in these big races. I think, in terms of talent, he's probably the most talented of Paisley Park's rivals.
So bar a cat and mouse game, I mean, it was a small field when he won at Newbury, Nick, wasn't it? Should be winning. Are we looking at a horse that's going to completely dominate this division? He would be chasing now, wouldn't he, if he hadn't gone on that spree that he would have done. I think that, this is a horse that they were always looking forward, to as a chaser. Surely he just stays and dominates the division, doesn't he, Nick?
Yeah, I think it's a division that's probably not that well supported at the moment. Like you can tell by the runners. There's not
So fingers on the buzzers for Cheltenham still, or is there just no juice there, Kills?
Well, I'd like to see what if the cap Fitz would have done against him, because obviously he's only had one try at 3 miles, and I think he's been crying out.
He was the fly in the ointment, wasn't
But
he?
he has set, Paisley Park has set the sort of, not far short of Thistlecrack big bug standard.
Okay, all right. So Paisley Park, 1-4, buying money. That's the weekend wrapped up. Then time to wrap something else up. Boxing Day is here. Then it's the big one, the King George. I don't know about you chaps, but this looks like one of the deepest, probably classiest King George I've seen for a long time. As you mentioned already on the show, we've got the 2 top-rated chasers in the country going head-to-head, but there are others. I'm a big footpad fan. For example, Paul, Surname, favourite. Too short?
No, I think you've got a trainer that's won it 10, 11 times.
Yeah.
A horse that goes right-handed. He's got the best form. He's arguably got the best form in the race. He's got to see the trip out, but he jumps fantastically well. He's bred to stay. He's going to be very, very hard to beat. In fact, I've been saying to a few people, I think it'll be harder for Lost in Translation to win the King George than it will for him to win the Gold Cup. Because I think this could well be Surname's Gold Cup if he stays. If not, Lost in Translation's a massive, massive player, obviously.
Well, they're flip-flopping in the market for both, aren't they? I mean, the current Gold Cup favourite at the moment is Lost in Translation. Nick, if you had to ride one of the top 2, pushing you that way, which one would it be?
On King George Day, I think Surname. Just for the
Course
fact.
winner?
Yeah, and it's not a big field.
So that's an interesting point, isn't it? I mean, if you're with one of the other jockeys, maybe not, Robbie Parrott on Lost in Translation, but are you going to try and go with him, assuming he's going to,
I think
up front?
Robbie at Haydock had a pace to aim at, so he was quite happy to sit in behind. I think he'd be aware that Surname could be getting a potential freebie because Clanderzoba is not going to take him on. I can't see what's going to take him on. There's not too many outsiders in the race that you would think would take him on, so he's going to get the run of it. If you jump wide, you'll be filling up in all the bends, and that will help him get the trip.
Does that mean that Clanderzoba is going slightly under the radar, Paul, for this?
Well, we were talking about races being, this being a top-class King George. We thought that last year, and then when it finished, we didn't think it, did we?
Yeah.
And obviously he didn't do it in the Gold Cup. But again,
That's not to Nick.
Kempton could be his track. But having said that, I think these 2 are very special horses, and probably just that one notch up above from Clanderzoba.
So I'm on footpad. What's putting you off that?
Well, not good.
Mullins,
enough. Not good enough.
Florida Pearl, wasn't it? Yeah.
Not good enough. And I don't, I think 3 mile on every ground.
Not good enough?
I don't think we'll stay. Nowhere near good enough to beat Surname and not Lost in Translation. Not in the same league.
Would you ride him, Nick? You'd be happy to sit on footpad?
Yeah, I would, yeah.
I thought he was electric at Thurles.
Yeah, no, he didn't have anything to beat.
Not good enough, that's told me. Time for the big call then, and we hand over to Ireland. DJ David Jennings, he's got a position on the King George, Lost in Translation in particular. Let's see what he's got to say.
Surname favourite for the King George? Are you kidding me? There's only one horse that should be favourite for the King George, and that is Lost in Translation. I'm not convinced that Surname did anything brilliant at Ascot. Yes, he beat the brilliant Altior, but I'm not convinced that that was the real Altior. Lost in Translation was exceptional in the Betfair chase at Haydock. Jumped brilliantly, was ridden differently, and there's people telling me he won't have enough pace for the King George. He had enough pace to beat Defi Desai at Cheltenham on New Year's Day last year. He almost beat Defi Desai in the JLT as well. I think he's got more than enough pace for the King George. To me, Lost in Translation ticks all the boxes, and I think he will go off favourite for the King George on Boxing Day. He should be favourite right now.
Right then, chaps, is he right or is he wrong? Does the market leader swing in the favour of Colin Tizard's powerhouse?
I don't see it. People like what they know when it comes to punting, don't they? And they know Paul Nicholls, they know Kempton, and they know that his horse has downed the greatest horse of the last few years in Altior last time out. So why isn't Surname going to be favourite? Not saying he'll win, but surely, given the record of Paul Nicholls at Kempton and what Surname did last time, he has to be fab.
It's all about market forces, though, isn't it? So, I mean, Tizard's horse has got a huge following, Nick, hasn't it? So, I don't know. I mean, DJ's obviously adamant that this is, people are going to think, well, if this wins the Gold Cup, this will be winning at Kempton as well. So if you're tipping, Paul, for example, just coming back to you, in your column, on Boxing Day, are you thinking I've got to be? Would you give this a mention as a tip? Would you put?
I'm not sure I would. I mean, first of all, they're two of my favourite horses in training.
So you're not looking away from them, basically.
I'm not looking away from them. One of them will win. One of them will finish second. That's how I'm seeing it.
So Tom Segal might be thinking, oh, I've got a tasty one here, and it could crash right in. You do see it on Boxing Day, don't you? Maybe not so much.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen in that race.
A lot of the punters probably already on already. So for us, we still think the surname pretty much is going to go off Fav. You'd be surprised if we did.
I think he'll go off Fav, but I'm a big Lost in Translation fan.
Big Lost in Translation fan. I think we all are. It's just whether it's all about Kempton or not. Don't forget to tweet at Racing Post, hashtag what a shout. We want to hear from you out there. Let us know what your Christmas predictions are. It's not all about us, of course. We don't always get it always right, funnily enough. Talking about getting it right, time for the My Racing double. Now, what do you think about this, chaps? They've put up Clanderzobo and Forheen, who, of course, runs, we think, in the Grade 1. We're hoping he does, against Sam Crow at Limerick on Boxing Day. Clanderzobo, I mean, you've given away what you think.
Well, done to King George's death, haven't I? I mean, I think, surname will win it. I think Lost in Translation will be finished second. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the other way round. I would be surprised if there was any other result.
Would you have Forheen in there?
I think they are too. Well, Forheen. Well, where's he going to? Where's he going to go? He's obviously going in a novice chase, so that's why they've got him in a double. Yeah. Who's he going to run against?
Sam Crow.
Fakir Dideris.
Lorena probably not.
Lorena probably not. I mean, Forheen. Apart from that one mistake, which probably made look a little bit worse than it was because Paul Townend
won that day.
Paul Townend went up, and he did win that day.
No, against.
Sam Crow.
Sorry,
Sam Crow. I mean, I thought he was travelling like the best horse, but I mean, a couple of people have made the good point that he travelled like that until the closing stages of his races when he was getting beat over hurdles. So you don't know because he didn't reach the closing stages. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Forheen against Sam Crow, I think you have to favour the younger horse, even though he came down last time.
So not a double for Kealy. Nick, big Forheen fan?
Yeah.
Think he can still make it as a chaser?
Yeah, he can. He did. I was quite impressed with him. He had a long time over hurdles, and I thought he adapted well. He'll only improve for that run. And I'm a massive Clanderzobo fan, and if it wasn't too soft, I would say it would be What a Shout.
More positive for Nick, and what a shout. Don't forget, of course, if you want to find all the best offers, go to the Racing Post site to place your bets. 27th then, it keeps on coming. We head to Chepstow for the slogfest that is the Welsh Grand National. I'm just going to get in here, chaps. I'm on now McGinty. That's Santini Sandown form. If Native River runs, we're not sure whether he'll go here or Cotswold in, Cheltenham, January on Trials Day. If he runs, I'm getting very, very excited. He's carrying 10.6. Slogfest, usually, Nick, I'm going to come to you with this. You want to be on something that's on the pace. They just stay there, don't they, at Chepstow? The race is slightly longer now, of course, than normal. Yeah. Don't forget they've got that longer run. So how are you thinking about that if you're a jockey for starters?
It could just slow the race up because you have to jump one now and then go down the hill, whereas before it was a 3 furlong rat race down the first bend.
And is that why they stay in front? Because he's just hurtling off and loads get taken out of their comfort zone?
Obviously the front jockeys, that they've started off in front, so then they're trying to pull up and get a breather. And then once you've got your position, you settle in that position. And very often you can go very fast for the 4 furlongs and not go very quick after. You can go a circuit going in a canter. And I think that's what it'll be like this year because it's going to be heavy. I've rode at Chepstow the last 3 meetings and it's very testing. And I think you'll need a horse I think the form and the handicap you take into consideration, but I think you need one that acts on the ground.
Now McGinty, course winner. Paul, talk me out of it.
Well, I couldn't sort you out of it. I mean, obviously, he really ran against Santini. I don't think Santini is all that good, to be honest. So that doesn't mean now McGinty can't win the race. But what about last year's winner, Elegant Escape? Who was the last dual winner? Was it Bonanza Boy?
Oh, yeah, ages ago.
Probably ages ago. Now, he shaped to me like a horse. He has improved. I mean, they went slowish in the Ladbrokes Trophy last time, and he was at the back. He finished up the straight faster than anything else on ground that was nearer good than the official good.
Beaten in the race last year, goes again.
Beaten in the race, ran much better in this race in the race last year, and went off 7-2. He's favourite again now. He's got a win of 164, 165. But
I think he got put up for his Hennessy run,
yeah,
but it doesn't affect the weights of the Welsh National.
Well, there you go. Well, he's got a massive chance of doing it again.
All depends on whether Native River runs. Of course.
Well, if Native River runs, I mean, he'd be carrying a little bit less weight as well, even better chance. But you wouldn't rule out Native River either because he looked fantastic at Liverpool, didn't he?
Tizard's holding the key then to the Welsh Grand National. So, Bonanza Irish package over Christmas, absolutely fantastic stuff. Limerick, Downroyal, of course, don't forget that. On Boxing Day as well, and Leopardstown. And we've got to go to Leopardstown, I imagine, guys. Well, if you had to name one horse running over the Christmas period, Paul, perhaps I'll come to you first. I've got a feeling you might lead with. Can you possibly narrow it down to a couple?
For one, the one I'm really looking forward to see, I think a lot of people are, is Chacun Pour Soi, because he's just about second favourite, I think, for the Champion Chase now. Defi de Soy is favourite because of what he's done, but Chacun Pour Soi, if you watch that Punchestown race again, watch him sprint away from him after the last, having out-jumped him all the way round. He could be very special. He's only run 3 times in his life over fences, and two times at the end of last season, having been off the track for 3 years.
He's going to be short, isn't he, for whatever
He's going to be short for whatever he is, but he's going to be odds on for whatever race he runs in.
Are you on for the Champion Chase?
I'm not, but I am thinking I don't really bet that short, but 4-1 for the Champion Chase, and he's probably going to win easy. Hopefully, going to win easily over Christmas, and then he'll be 2-1 money.
New kings in town, of course, in that division.
Yeah,
Nick?
I was just going to say, Nick, what do you think? Do you think Defi de Soy has improved, or is just showing the same form now as he was showing as a novice?
I think he's improved. Just look at him as an individual in the paddock. I do think he's strengthened up a lot, but I think this weekend, as you touched on, is a massive weekend for Cheltenham, because there's so many pointers that are going to be thrown out of it, and the markets, I'm sure, will be thrown up after. So if you really fancy him for this weekend, then you'd almost want to be hedging your bets for Cheltenham.
Should we touch on Ken Boy? That's going to be possibly the story of the Christmas period. Allowed to run.
Yeah, I wonder how many people actually put him in their tent to follow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because, absolutely. Don't you?
Most people think, well, we're not even going to see him, and now he's going to be favourite for the Savills Chase.
Is he the highest rated chaser in
He's the highest rated chaser in Ireland. I think he's joined, probably, he was joined.
He would have been before surname.
I think surname may be a pound higher now.
Okay.
But obviously, he looked very, very good last year. He fell at the first in the Gold Cup. Or the second.
What would have happened that day if he just
I don't know. But as I got,
suggests it would have been close.
As I got the trifecta up, I'm not going to worry about what would have happened.
Nice one to get that in, Keels. That's probably about the only trifecta you've ever had. That's what he's saying. Nick, if you've got a horse that's been rusty, first time out in a Savills Chase over Christmas, even if you're the top chaser, you're going to be, presenting Percy. We think might turn up. He's had that run. It was a good run at that, wasn't it? Over an inadequate trip.
Not when you're trained by Willie Mullins. They rode him differently at Punchestown last time to what they did at Cheltenham. They gave him a good sighter at his fences. Leopardstown's a lovely track, big galloping, loads of space. I'm sure he'll be fine.
It's a topic we could have gone on about forever. There's your horses, your Irish horses over Christmas. Nap section. Let me get in first. And now McGinty, I've given a big shout to, of course, over the course of the programme. He'll nearly win the Coral Welsh National, but if I had to have one winner, it would be Benny de Jure in the big 3-mile hurdle at Leopardstown. That's about 11 to 10. Paul, where are we going now?
Yeah, but if you have to, I don't know. I've never understood why you have to have a short price for a nap.
Because I think she will win.
Well,
I think she will win. But I love the price about Now McGinty. I think 7-1 shot.
That. You never win a nap stable with my nap and 11 to 10 shots. Stupid idea. Anyway, my nap's going to be
wearing a tie next
my nap would be Elegant and Escape, and I mean almost apologetic for that because it's favourite, but at least it's 5-1. He is an improved horse this year. He stays forever. He loves soft ground. He will win the Welsh National for the second year running.
Once Now McGinty's gone past him, of course, after
Now McGinty will be jumping to third last, I'd imagine.
Nick, one winner. Where are you going to be headed to on Boxing Day? Are you sure yet? As Dave Roberts texted
I'll be Wincanton, I'd imagine.
Right, Wincanton. Now we're getting some. Of course, there's so many meetings, of course, on Boxing Day. What are you looking forward to riding there then?
Got a couple of nice rides. Cheltenham, Kisses for Katie, and a nice bumper horse. So.
Who's the bumper horse?
Finished second last. Actually, I don't know what I'm riding, but should be okay.
All right, so Kisses for Katie. She looked like a horse that might pick up if you're going to...
Back in trip wouldn't be ideal, but should have a big chance.
Jeremy Scott horse. All right, so there you go. There's some naps for you. And again, I think Now McGinty is, a 7-1 shot. Not
He's in fairness, he is, your archetypal, almost like Trent's horse, isn't he? He's got the right profile. Second season tracer, low weight.
Can I give an each way? Potter's Corner in the Welsh National. If this rain keeps coming, he won the Midlands National on bottomless ground. He'll plod on and he'll keep going, and he could just run into a place.
It's a Welsh National. We want as many horses as we can. Will you back more than one horse in the race?
If I'm going to back Elegant Escape, probably not, because he's short enough.
You just think,
when it comes to these big races, I often back horses that'll just annoy me if they won because I haven't backed them. You know what I mean? But I'm quite confident about Elegant Escape.
All that racing over Christmas, then. There are your winners. Let's get the big calls in then before we end the show. This week's What a Shout. Kealy, your big call.
Well, we got Defi de Soy, we got Altio in Britain, but after Chacun Pour Soi wins at Leopardstown on the 27th, he will be a very warm order for the Champion Chase.
Once you've ridden your double at Wincanton on Boxing Day, who gets to drive you home? Who's going to be the big call there? Who do you share a car with, first and foremost? on your way there?
Usually other jockeys, but I won't be complaining if it's a blonde female driving me back.
Christmas comes but once a year. Happy days, there are your big calls. Well, that's all we've got time for then, the inaugural running of What a Shout over the Christmas period. A Merry Christmas to you all. Don't forget to get your comments in below. Tweet us at Twitter, #WhatAShout. Don't forget, when you open your new phone, when Santa brings you one on Christmas Day, don't forget to download the free Racing Post app Store or the Play Store. And when you're having your flutters over Christmas, whatever you do it responsibly.